Yes, boys and girls, hope every single one of you is doing brilliantly today. Welcome to the first official, you could say official video on this channel other than the welcome video. Today I'm going to be doing a keep, bench, or no, should I say keep, loan or sell based on the current Chelsea squad. And I'm going to be brutally honest, I think there's players that have impressed this season, I think there's players that can be improved upon, and I think there's players that have just really shown that they just aren't good enough for this current Chelsea team and need to be moved on. But I'm going to go through all of the players today. I'm going to be brutally honest, I'm going to be critical, and yeah, harsh words might need to be said, but also some credit needs to be given where it is due. So let's get into it. We're going to start with the goalkeepers. Robert Sanchez, our number one on the back of his shirt, but in my opinion, never should be number one for Chelsea Football Club. I think it's proved time and time again this season that he's just not up to the Chelsea level, making continuous mistakes at the back. It started off with just his distribution. We were seeing that last season as well under Maurizio Pochettino. His distribution was poor, going out for throw-ins every goal kick. But now this season, he's proved that maybe he's not actually as good of a shot stopper as we all thought, which is what was bailing him out a bit last season. He's making mistakes. He's coming out when he shouldn't be. He looks undecisive as well, and he's infuriated a lot of Chelsea fans, including myself, and he's proved that he's just not good enough for Chelsea. So for me personally, I would sell him, but it did come out the other day that Chelsea aren't actually looking to sign another goalkeeper. It will be interesting to see what does happen with Petrovic, who is currently out on loan at Strasbourg, because if it's down to me, he would have been the number one for this season. I don't think he was that bad last season at all, but for every reason the owners decided to loan him out to Strasbourg. So it will be interesting to see what does happen there, but Robert Sanchez for me needs to be sold. We move into Philip Jorgensen, who everyone at the start of the season was calling to be playing ahead of Robert Sanchez, and only a couple of weeks ago Enzo Maresca did make that bold decision to drop Robert Sanchez and make Jorgensen our number one goalkeeper. And in my opinion, it hasn't really benefited us much. I feel like Jorgensen is still making mistakes as well. Not as blatant, not as many mistakes as Robert Sanchez, but there's still, you could argue there's still some shots in there that could be saved. Like the Brighton one, you could say the Matoma goal could have been saved, and even the Aston Villa one that did see Aston Villa win the game the other day, win it 2-1. He did drop the ball. No, he didn't drop the ball. It went under him. He didn't catch it a strong enough hand on it. So yeah, questions need to be asked about Jorgensen as well. I feel like at the moment he's more of like a stopgap to fill in for Robert Sanchez, who is underperforming. But I still think Petrovic needs to come back and be the number one goalkeeper. I think neither of them, Jorgensen could be a good goalkeeper, maybe a good backup goalkeeper, but I don't think he's good enough to be the number one for Chelsea either. So for me personally, I would keep him, but I still think we should sign another goalkeeper. We move into Marc Cucurella now. This for me is an absolute no-brainer. I think has been one of our top three players of the season this season. And when you compare him to the Marc Cucurella that joined Chelsea 2 years ago, it is absolutely night and day. This player is he's in there winning tackles, defensively solid, even started to contribute to goals now. He's getting a few goals now, he's getting assists. Inverting into that midfield really does suit him, I feel like. And you could tell he just properly cares about the team. He proper cares about results. Like he's proper Chelsea in my opinion, and me 100% needs to be kept. Yeah, Marc Cucurella needs to be kept for me. Tosin Adarabioyo. Now he joined from Fulham last summer on a free transfer, and a lot of Chelsea fans, including myself, thought this was a good signing, good piece of business on a free. Coming in, currently one of our most experienced players at only 26 years old. I think our most experienced player actually, to the point where he has been given a nickname the Uncle, which I find crazy. But again, this goes back to the model. He shouldn't be the only experienced player we have at the club. You could argue maybe he's not even that experienced, only being 26 years old. In terms of how he performed on the pitch, I feel like he's a bit up and down. He has had good games where he's aerially dominant. He's imposed himself in the back four. He's been a bit of a leader. And there has been some games, maybe you could argue when the whole team's been underperforming, where he's kind of let himself down. He's kind of letting players through, getting bullied for someone of his height. So for me personally, I would keep him in the squad, but again, I feel like another centre-back needs to be brought in, so maybe he can develop, and another player which I'm going to get onto in a second, but an experienced centre-back definitely needs to be brought in. I feel like we're definitely missing that kind of Thiago Silva presence at the back, a player that just comes in, imposes himself, uses his experience, never gets caught lacking. I feel like we kind of need that in this team, man. Even it doesn't even have to necessarily be in the defence, even in the midfield or the attack. But Tosin, I would keep. Benoit Badiashile. Again, he signed in the January window of 2023, that massive January window where we were spending loads. And he looked impressive for the first couple of games, but as of recently, as of the past couple of seasons, just hasn't been impressive at all. Borderline really poor defender. Been a really poor defender. And he's currently out injured, but I think the games he has played, he just hasn't really impressed at all as of recently. Like that 5-0 against Arsenal last season got absolutely just run ragged and just proved that for me he's just not a good enough centre back to be at Chelsea. And so for me personally, I would get rid of him. I would cash in on him in the summer if there were suitors to buy him. I know he was bought in. He is a young centre back to try and develop him, but I think we've got enough of them now. I don't think we can take a risk of any more. So for me personally, I would cash in on him on the summer. You can maybe get a decent bit of money for him. But yeah, I'd sell him. Levi Colwill. Now, for those of you who follow me on TikTok, know that I've been on Levi Colwill's back this season just because I'm seeing him making continuous mistakes, and I feel like he's getting heavily overprotected by the Chelsea fans just because he is from Cobham. He is only 21, 22 years old. I think he's about the same age as me, to be fair. But Levi Colwill, I've not been overly impressed with this season. Last season, he broke into the team. He done okay under Mauricio Pochettino. He was playing left. He given the benefit of the doubt because he was playing left back a lot of last season because Marco Cucurella was still slightly underperforming. But this season, he is playing on that left centre back role, and he's been average. He's been average to say the least, in my opinion. I feel like he gets bullied. Listen, you can get bullied by Haaland in a Manchester City team. That's normal. Haaland is a monster of a striker. But when you're getting like run ragged from Aston Villa strikers, from teams like Brighton as well, Danny Welbeck as well, listen, don't get me wrong, had a good game against Newcastle the other day, sending him through in the FA Cup. But it's happened too many times where Levi Colwill's been caught making mistakes, either ball watching or just not tracking his man, and it needs to be improved upon. But I feel like we should keep him in the squad. I do want to be fair and give him the chance to develop. And as I touched on with Tosin, bringing in that experienced centre back, I feel like could really help him maybe, because he did have a few good games last season playing alongside Thiago Silva. So maybe bringing in that kind of leader at the back could maybe help him. But yeah, I'd keep him, but he definitely needs to improve. I want to see big improvements next season. Trevor Chalobah. Now, if it was up to me, I would keep him, but I know the board are going to look to sell him in the summer. I think the only reason he was recalled back in January was due to a lack of depth in that area. We had players out injured, and he was performing against Crystal Palace, and we were lucky that there was a clause, somewhat of a clause in the loan deal that we could recall him back. Now, a lot of Chelsea fans have argued that it was quite poor for his development to recall him back from Crystal Palace when he was having a good season, and to bring him back in the Chelsea team, which, to be fair, at the time wasn't doing so bad, but now you could argue he's in a bit of a bad state. But for Trevor Chalobah, I would have never loaned out anyway. I think he was good enough to be in the team. He broke through under Thomas Tuchel just after he won the Champions League and was performing. He's playing in the back three with the likes of Rudiger and Christensen. And obviously we haven't got them players now, but I feel like Trevor Chalobah, again, is one of our more experienced players, funnily enough. And I think he's good enough, so I would keep Trevor Chalobah. But knowing the board, I reckon they are going to try to look to sell him on in the summer to get that pure profit. He's a Cobham boy. So yeah, I expect him to be sold, but if the decision was down to me, I would keep him. Reece James. Now, obviously, no beating around the bush. He's a heavily injury-prone player. He is the club captain, but he is heavily injury-prone. The Reece James of old was an absolute, you could argue, one of the best right-backs in world football. Defensively solid. The balls he's whipping in, going forward. He was even scoring goals as well. But now, he struggles to last like for a run of games. And even when you watch him play now, defensively he's still solid. He's the captain. But he gets burnt for pace every now and again. We did see that against West Ham. Carlos Soler absolutely blitzing him for pace. And listen, Carlos Soler, no disrespect to him, he's not like a Usain Bolt or like a Vinicius Junior kind of player where he should be skinning players like that. Because Reece James of old wouldn't have let that happen. So Reece James has definitely suffered from a few of the injuries. But I would still definitely keep him in the squad. He is the club captain. He is proper Chelsea. And he's proved it in the seasons he has played for us when he broke through under Frank Lampard. So I would definitely keep Reece James. Malo Gusto, definitely been one of the more disappointing players of this season when you do compare him to last season. And I think all Chelsea fans can agree on this. He has just not been good at all this season. I don't know what's happened to him. Defensively getting caught out. Going forward, he looks clueless as well. I genuinely don't know what's happened to the Malo Gusto of last season. The Malo Gusto we've seen of last season, he was filling in for the injured Reece James. was one of the, in my opinion, one of the best right backs in the league, one of the best full backs in the league, getting up and down, defensively solid, fast. But now this season, maybe you could argue it's when Enzo Maresca was trying to invert him, and that just doesn't suit him whatsoever. But that's no excuse for some of his defensive displays that we have been seeing on the flanks and his ability going forward. So Malo Gusto, again, I would keep, but needs to improve next season. If not, questions, uncomfortable conversations might need to be had. Wesley Fofana, again, sadly another injury-prone player who is expected to be coming back in the next couple of weeks. Maybe could even feature against Leicester on Sunday. Maybe a lot of Chelsea fans have made this argument, and I am hearing it. Like, since Wesley Fofana has gone down, we have suffered a bit in defence. And maybe we are taking Wesley Fofana for granted on that basis, but I think even he, when he was playing, was still making a few mistakes there and then getting caught out. But you could argue is one of the best of a bad bunch, you could say. But I still think this defence, as I've said countless times, needs to be improved upon. Wesley Fofana I would keep. Josh Achiempong, the player who has broken through into the men's first team this season, and he did get his first start against Crystal Palace, I believe. Sadly, we did drop points that game, but I don't think that was on him. And he does look like a good young prospect in the defence, defensively solid. He's been playing in that right back role mainly. Me personally, I would loan him. I feel like we can maybe develop him, make him even better. If we loan him to a Premier League club, I feel like that's going to be best for him. I feel like he's good enough to be on loan in a Premier League club. We have seen that. So Josh Achiempong, I would send out on loan, see how he develops. As we move on to the midfield, we start off with Enzo Fernandez, who has been playing a lot of games as the captain this season, obviously due to Reece James and Ben Chilwell's absence. I feel like Enzo Fernandez is definitely one of them players that does split opinions. He did sign for 100 million in the January 2023 window. It was a deadline day signing where he spent the majority of the window trying to wrap it up with Benfica. And he has come in that little period, second half of the season, the 2023 season. He did look like one of our shining brights. Wasn't really getting much G&A, but he did look like one of the best of a bad bunch in a terrible season. And then last season, obviously, he did suffer with hernia. He was ill, and his performances, just you could say, weren't up to scratch, and did miss a lot of the end of last season. This season he's come in, and I feel like Enzo Maresca has definitely found like a good role for him, but that obviously does depend on when Lavia is fit. I feel like when you have all three of them in the midfield, it allows Lavia to be the sitter, Caicedo to move up slightly forward, and Enzo Fernandez to almost be that box crasher of a box-to-box midfielder. He's allowed to contribute to the attack. You don't have to rely on him too much defensively. We know we can get caught out there. We know athletically he's not like the greatest. He's not quick. Physically, I feel like the Premier League, he does need to get a bit more physically stronger. But that can come over time. But I would definitely keep Enzo Fernandez in this team. I feel like when Romeo Lavia is fit, who I will get onto in a bit, that role definitely suits him. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. Now, a lot of you might argue it's harsh that obviously he's coming on his first season. He hasn't got much game time. I mean, in my opinion, little game time he has had hasn't set the world alight, to say the least, if we're being honest. I just don't think he's Chelsea level. I didn't really understand the signing in the first place, if I'm honest. Now, a lot of you are going to say it was an Enzo Maresca signing, obviously due to him working with him at Leicester. But I've just not been impressed with Dewsbury Hall, and if it was down to me, I would look to move him on in the summer, and I think he would like to move on personally to get more game time. But let me know what you think about that one in the comments. Moises Caicedo, now my opinion, has been our player of the season. For last season, he did struggle at the start of the season under Maurizio Pochettino. He came in for a lot of money. He is our record signing. We beat Liverpool to the signature, and he just didn't look like he was settling in very well in that Chelsea team. This season, however, he's been a breath of fresh air in that midfield. Just absolutely winning every duel, getting stuck in, even leading by example in his performances. He's not necessarily the captain, but he's leading by example. And at the start of the season, you could argue one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. I'd still say that to this day, to be fair. But obviously, you could argue with Chelsea's performances dropping, that not many people are going to vouch for him. But Moises Caicedo, 100% keep. Now, Amalgu, the midfielder that we did sign in the January window, I think our only signing, who I think we are gonna look to loan out to Strasbourg. I would definitely just loan him. I haven't seen enough of him to know if he's going to be good enough to play in this Chelsea team. It was a bit annoying that he was our only January signing. I think we needed to sign more in that window. But yeah, I'd loan him. Romeo Lavia. Now, I think on his day he could be our best midfielder. I think we miss him so much in that midfield. As I've explained, it allows Enzo Fernandez to contribute more in the attack. You don't have to rely on him defensively. Moises Caicedo benefits from it as well. The issue is with Romeo Lavia is that his fitness is a problem. And he hasn't played an awful lot this season. He missed basically the whole of last season. And it is becoming a bit of a concern, if I'm honest. But I think he is too good of a player to just move on. Similar situation to Reece James. So I'd give him another season to see if he can stay fit. If not, then again, uncomfortable conversations might have to be had about Romeo Lavia, because we can't afford to rely on him if he keeps getting injured. Because we do need to, if we are going to be competing up there again, we need to have players that are good enough and that are going to be available. As we move on to the attacking options, Pedro Neto, who signed in the summer from Wolves for around a £65 million deal. And listen, the start of the season didn't really impress me at all, if I'm honest. Only had glimpses like the Arsenal game. But now you can argue he's really coming into his own. He's even occupying that central role to fill in the absence of Nicholas Jackson and Mark Yu. And it looks like it's suiting him. He does work hard. We all know he's a quality player. We did see that at Wolves for numerous seasons. So I would definitely keep him. Hopefully he can keep up the current form that he's in at the moment. Mikhailo Mudryk. I don't know what's going on with this whole doping situation. If I'm honest. Obviously we heard what happened like about a month and a bit ago. He was caught failing his test. And we haven't heard anything since. And prior to that, I was on Mudryk's case for the right reasons. Just, I think it's been a poor signing, to say the least. It's been a very poor signing. Haven't been impressed with him hardly at all in his Chelsea career so far. He lacks a first touch. Yes, he is fast, but I feel like his decision making as well. He runs around a bit like a headless chicken. So I would definitely sell Mikhailo Mudryk. Noni Madueke. Now, I did touch on this on my TikTok video. By the way, if you guys haven't checked out my TikTok, please do check it out. I will leave a link in the description. With Willian Esteval coming in, it's going to be very hard for Noni Madueke to get game time, in my opinion. I think Noni Madueke, at the start of the season, we all thought could be on for a good season, especially after that Wolves game where he did score a hat-trick after that controversial Instagram post slating their town. But since then, it's been very inconsistent. I feel like Enzo Maresca has given him more than enough game time to prove his worth. And there has been some glimpses. Should I say. But I just feel like his decision making in the final third is a bit off. His end product does lack a bit. And I feel like, as I say, if we are going to be competing in seasons to come, I don't think he is the answer, if I'm being 100% honest. And with Willian Esteval coming in, who we've seen light it up at Palmeiras in Brazil, it's going to be a bit tough for Noni Madueke to be a consistent starter. So for me personally, I would look to sell him. Nicholas Jackson, who is currently out injured, again another player that really splits hairs in this fan base. I feel like, in my opinion, Nicholas Jackson is heavily scapegoated when we do lose games and he is playing. Because yes, you know what? Without beating around the bush, he does miss a lot of chances. There's no denying that. And I feel like his finishing does need to improve. You could argue his decision making as well. But I feel like he does a lot for our team in terms of pressing, in terms of defending from the front. He just injects a bit of urgency in that team. Like, our press, in my opinion, our press has completely dropped since Nicholas Jackson has got injured. Because Christopher Nkunku doesn't press. Jadon Sancho doesn't really press either. You could say Pedro Neto does to an extent. But Nicholas Jackson, I feel like there is a quality striker in there. Or maybe even a quality player. Maybe he's not even an out-and-out striker. Maybe he can. We saw last season that he can play off the left. He can do a job there. He's got the pace, he's got the height. I feel like he can hold up the play definitely better than Christopher Nkunku. And I think he's more than good enough to be in the Chelsea squad. Maybe not to be the only striker we have at the club, or the only proven striker we have at the club. But I would definitely keep him. I do want to see us go in for a striker this summer. I expect us to sign a striker, whether that be Liam Delap, Victor Gyökeres or Victor Osimhen. I don't expect either of the last two to be signed. I think Liam Delap will be the striker that comes into Chelsea in the summer. But I'd definitely keep Nicholas Jackson. Christopher Nkunku. Oh dear. it's a shame really with Christopher Nkunku, because we were all excited about the signing. We signed him in again in that January window. We did activate that release clause from Leipzig, and then he did join in that same summer. And did get unlucky with the injury, which did see us sign Cole Palmer in the end to fill his absence. And obviously we didn't know that Cole Palmer would go on to be one of, if not the best player in his position in the Premier League. But Christopher Nkunku, now that Cole Palmer is filling that space, I don't think has much of a place in this team. He's not an out-and-out striker. He's not a winger either. I think his best position is the number 10 or just behind the striker. And that's been occupied. And when he does play, when he has been playing to fill in Nicholas Jackson's absence, he just doesn't look motivated at all. He looks like his head's elsewhere. He looks like he does definitely want to leave. And I don't blame him if he's not getting a lot of game time. But I would definitely sell Christopher Nkunku. Jadon Sancho. Now this is a player that obviously we signed from Manchester United. He is currently on loan with an obligation to buy at the end of the season for £25 million. He started off the season brightly, getting assists, getting a few goals as well, like that goal against Tottenham, which is a brilliant finish. But as of recently, as the performances have started to drop, we've seen Jadon Sancho's performances definitely drop as well. He does all the hard work to get round defenders, get in the box. However, he doesn't seem to, when he gets in the box, he doesn't seem to make a decision in time. He seems to either lose the ball, or when he does make that decision, his end product just hasn't been there. And I feel like that needs to definitely improve, and we just haven't seen it. We just haven't seen it been good enough over the past couple of weeks. So Jadon Sancho, as I say, I would keep. I think there's definitely a quality player in there. And a chance for him to prove the Manchester United fans and Manchester United wrong about him, who did look to shun him away, like managers like Ten Hag, who just didn't believe in him at all. So Jadon Sancho, I would keep, but he does need to improve, like a lot of these players that I have mentioned. Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer, still the best player in the team in my opinion. You could say over the past month or so his performances haven't been up to par with the Cole Palmer that we all know. The Cole Palmer of last season, the Cole Palmer at the start of the season, scoring 4 goals in one half against Brighton. Especially that Southampton game, he had about 6 chances that he just didn't take, which is very unlike him. But he's still one of the best players in the Premier League in my opinion, one of the best players in his position in world football. And this shouldn't really be a debate, so we are definitely keeping him. Mark Gu, the Conference League king for us. I would look to loan Mark Gu. As I say, we are going to be bringing in a striker this summer, it does seem. And with Delap and Jackson, his minutes are going to be very limited next season. So I would loan him. Hopefully he can develop as well and come back a proven striker. But yeah, listen, he's been impressive somewhat this season, mainly in the Conference League in Europe. He has had a very few amount of appearances off the bench in the Premier League. So yeah, Mark Gu I'd look to send out on loan. Tyreek George looks bright when he comes on. Again, another one that was promoted into the men's senior team not long ago, along with Josh Achiempong. He does look bright. He provided a brilliant assist for Mark Cucurella the other day against Southampton. Does need to develop. I would loan him personally, whether it to be a Premier League club or a Championship club. I would definitely loan him, because I feel like with the wingers that are going to be coming in, like Esteval, and I do think we are going to look to sign another one as well. I think his game time is going to be very limited, so for the benefit of his career, I think it would be best to go out on loan, develop a bit, and come back to Chelsea an improved player. So I would loan him. Let me know what you guys do think about all them in the comments. I think I was really honest. I think I was fair. And listen, this team does need to improve. There are still some players that are either inexperienced or just aren't good enough. But I think there are some good players in there. But let me know what you guys think. If you guys have enjoyed this video, please do hit that like and subscribe button for more. And I will see you guys soon.